Black woman and her kids were kicked into a garage. An hour later, a limousine pulled up. Brianna Moore sat at the edge of her worn-out couch, eyes fixed on the cracked phone screen in her palm. The kids were asleep in their shared bedroom, worn out from a long day at school and the crowded aftercare program. The air in the small apartment was cold, colder than usual, but not as cold as the text she just read. You and the kids can come by for Thanksgiving. Dinner starts at 5. Veronica. No, hi. No, looking forward to seeing you. Just 12 sterile words from a woman who shared her blood, but none of her warmth. Brianna exhaled through her nose, steady and deliberate. Her instincts told her not to go. Veronica had never made her feel welcome, not once in the 15 years since their father's funeral. Back then, Brianna was just 20 and barely holding it together. Veronica hadn't helped then either. Not with the burial costs, not with the will. Not with anything. Still, Brianna stared at that message as if it carried more weight than it should have. Malik's been asking to see her house, she whispered to herself. And Naya, she just wants to belong somewhere. She reached over and pulled a blanket around her legs. The wind outside howled through the thin windows. The heat hadn't kicked in properly in days. The next morning, as the kids scrambled to get dressed, Brianna stood in front of the mirror, adjusting the same scarf she'd worn to interviews, funerals, and court dates. Her reflection looked tired but focused. "Hey," Malik said, poking his head out of the room. "Are we really going to Aunt Veronica's tomorrow?" "Yeah, baby, we are." His face lit up, even though he tried to hide it with a cool shrug. Nia ran in behind him, clutching a crumpled paper she had drawn the night before. "Do you think she'll like this? It's a turkey wearing pearls." Brianna laughed, brushing a curl from Nia's cheek. "I think it's perfect." The day arrived too fast. They had nothing fancy to wear, but Brianna made sure the kids were neat. Malik wore a button-up shirt 2 sizes too small, the sleeves ending awkwardly above his wrists. Nia had a faded pink dress she insisted made her feel like a queen. Brianna herself pulled out her best thrift store coat and the pair of heels she saved for job interviews. They piled into her old Nissan, the engine groaning like it resented the trip. As they pulled up to Veronica's house, a wave of discomfort washed over her. The home was massive, one of those McMansions with a circular driveway, trimmed hedges, and a wreath too perfect to be handmade. Brianna parked awkwardly on the curb while Mercedes and BMWs lined the drive. Malik's jaw dropped. "This place looks like it belongs on TV." Nia pressed her face against the window. "It looks like a hotel." Inside, laughter echoed from the high-ceilinged foyer. Veronica opened the door herself, wearing a form-fitting cream sweater dress and a diamond bracelet that sparkled a little too hard. "Brianna," she said flatly. "You made it." She didn't hug her, just opened the door wider. Brianna held on to her smile. "Thanks for having us." Malik and Nia stepped inside, their awe undisguised. The house was filled with expensive decor, gold-rimmed mirrors, glass sculptures, a staircase that split into 2 directions like something out of a movie. They passed through the foyer into the kitchen, where a group of Veronica's friends chatted over wine and charcuterie. None of them looked like Brianna. One of the women gave her a once-over and offered a polite smile that didn't reach her eyes. Veronica led them toward the back of the kitchen. "I've set up a space for you and the kids. The dining table's just a bit full this year." Brianna blinked. "You mean the kids' table?" Veronica's smile turned rigid. "Not quite." She pushed open a side door, and the cold air hit them first. The garage was mostly empty, save for a folding table with 3 mismatched chairs and a small space heater humming in the corner. A single dim bulb buzzed above. "I figured you'd appreciate the quiet." Brianna stood frozen for a moment. Malik glanced up at her, confused. Nia tugged at her hand. "Mommy, are we in trouble?" Veronica clapped her hands. "Well, make yourselves comfortable. Dinner's almost ready." Then she shut the door. They sat in silence. Nia picked at the paper napkin folded beside her plate. Malik stared down at his lap. The folding table wobbled with every slight movement. Brianna tried to speak, but the lump in her throat refused to budge. "She didn't even give us a tablecloth," Malik mumbled. Brianna forced a laugh. "We don't need a tablecloth to be family." Malik looked up. "Are we family to her?" Silence. "I thought this would be different," he added. "That maybe she'd see we're not less." Brianna's chest tightened. All the time she'd worked late, said no to field trips, skipped meals, just to keep them fed. And now they were eating Thanksgiving dinner in a garage like leftovers. Suddenly, a noise outside the garage door made her turn. Tires on gravel. Not from the front. This came from the back driveway. They all froze. Brianna stood and walked to the side window. A black limousine was easing into the rear parking pad. Its headlights lit up the garage wall, casting long shadows inside. Nia whispered, "Who's that?" Brianna didn't answer. Her mind raced. Nobody knew they were here. Nobody should know. She stepped closer to the door as the limo engine cut off. The back passenger door opened slowly, and a woman stepped out. Tall, elegant, with gray-streaked hair swept into a bun. She wore a long camel coat and walked like someone who belonged anywhere she went. She didn't look at the front of the house. She looked directly at the garage, and then she smiled. "Mom," Malik whispered. "She's coming this way." Brianna's heart pounded. Her instincts flared. Who was this? And why was she here? The knock on the garage door echoed like thunder in the silence. Brianna's heart was thudding so loudly she thought the kids could hear it. Nia clutched her arm tighter. Malik stood halfway between his seat and the door, unsure whether to run or stand tall. Brianna moved toward the door slowly, her hand trembling as she reached for the handle. She cracked it open just a sliver, just enough to peek outside. The woman from the limo was standing there, calm and regal, as if she weren't surrounded by freezing air and a mess of pine needles blown in from the driveway. Her face was warm, but her eyes, sharp and deliberate, locked onto Brianna's like they'd known each other forever. "Brianna Moore?" the woman asked. Brianna blinked. "Yes?" The woman smiled softly. "May I come in?" Still confused, Brianna opened the door fully, stepping aside to let her in. The woman stepped over the threshold, her heels clicking gently against the cold concrete. "I'm sorry," Brianna said instinctively. "This isn't exactly a good time." "I know," the woman replied. She looked around the garage, her gaze passing over the plastic folding table, the tiny heater, the mismatched chairs. "That's why I'm here." Brianna glanced toward her kids. Malik had stepped closer, cautious but curious. Nia peeked from behind the table, her wide brown eyes watching the woman carefully. "You don't know me," the woman said, gently removing her gloves. "But I know you. My name is Evelyn Carter." The name didn't register at first. Brianna tried to place her face, an old caseworker maybe. "A social worker?" "I'm sorry," Brianna said again. "Should I know you?" Evelyn nodded slowly. "You will. I used to work with your mother." That stopped Brianna cold. "My mother passed when I was 11. "I know," Evelyn said, stepping forward. "And before she died, she entrusted me with something. Something she said might be needed someday, when the world became too cruel." Brianna's stomach twisted. What are you talking about? Evelyn reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a small weathered envelope. She extended it to Brianna. With shaking fingers, Brianna opened the flap. Inside was a folded letter and a photograph. The photo was faded, but unmistakable. It was her mother, younger, holding baby Brianna in one arm and standing beside another woman in a nurse's uniform. That woman was Evelyn. The letter was written in neat, flowing script. If you're reading this, it means my daughter needs help. I don't know what kind of world she'll be in, but I know she'll face it with strength. Still, sometimes strength alone won't be enough. That's where you come in, Evelyn. Help her if you can. She's more than anyone sees. She's meant for more. Brianna couldn't breathe. She sat down slowly in one of the chairs, the letter still in her hand. My mom wrote this? Evelyn nodded. She was the strongest nurse I ever met. She raised you alone while fighting to expose corruption in the system. That fight got her into trouble, serious trouble. But she never stopped trying to make things better. Brianna blinked rapidly. Why now? Why come find me after all these years? Because your aunt kicked you and your children into a garage on Thanksgiving, Evelyn said simply. And I saw it happen. Brianna froze. What do you mean you saw it? Evelyn sat beside her. Veronica didn't know I'd be arriving today. I was invited by her husband, Roger. We worked together on a healthcare equity board last year. I came early. I saw her escort you through the side hall. I followed. Outside, a gust of wind shook the garage door. So this is pity then? Brianna asked, voice low. No, Evelyn said. This is purpose. Evelyn turned to Malik and Nia. You two hungry? The kids looked to their mom. Brianna nodded slowly. Evelyn smiled. My driver is waiting outside. We're going somewhere warm, with food that doesn't come with humiliation. Where? Brianna asked. Evelyn stood and reached for her phone. Somewhere Veronica can't control. But first, would you like to change? Brianna hesitated. These are our best clothes. Evelyn's eyes softened. Then you'll walk in with your head high. Brianna rose slowly. Something in her chest shifted. Years of being stepped on, questioned, underestimated. She looked down at her children, then back at Evelyn. Let's go. They stepped outside into the cold, but somehow it didn't sting as much. The limo door opened as they approached. The driver nodded politely and helped Nia inside. Malik followed, still quiet but no longer slouched. Brianna paused before getting in. Through the side window, she could see into Veronica's dining room. Laughter, wine glasses clinking, platters of food being passed around a grand mahogany table. But all Brianna felt was numb. Evelyn leaned over. You know, Veronica's husband doesn't even know she stuck you in the garage. He assumed you declined the invite. Brianna let out a bitter laugh. Of course he did. You'll get your moment, Evelyn said softly. But first, dinner. And a conversation. As the limo pulled away, Veronica never looked outside, too busy entertaining her curated life to notice the silence in the garage, or the black woman and her two kids driving away in a vehicle that didn't belong in her world. Yet. The car turned out of the neighborhood. For the first time in years, Brianna allowed herself to relax against the leather seat. Nia held her hand. Malik looked out the window like he was watching a new chapter begin. Because it was. And Brianna wasn't going to let it slip away. The limo cruised through downtown Atlanta, cutting through the cold night like a silent promise. Brianna had sat in silence for most of the ride, one arm around Nia, her other hand resting on Malik's knee. Evelyn didn't press her to talk. She simply watched the city blur past the tinted windows. Finally, the car pulled up to an elegant brownstone on a quiet street lined with bare oaks wrapped in soft white lights. It wasn't a mansion, but it radiated something more powerful: stability, safety, dignity. As the driver opened the door, Brianna hesitated. "This your home?" she asked Evelyn. Evelyn shook her head with a small smile. "No." "It's yours." Brianna blinked. "Excuse me?" "Your mother bought it years ago," Evelyn said, stepping out. "She left it in trust. I've been taking care of it, until the day came when you'd need it." Brianna didn't move. Evelyn leaned down, her voice gentle but steady. "She couldn't protect you from everything, but she did everything she could to make sure you'd never be left with nothing." Malik whispered, "So, we're not going back to Aunt Veronica's?" Brianna finally stepped out of the limo, her eyes fixed on the building in front of her. "No, baby. We're not." Inside, the brownstone was warm and glowing. Hardwood floors, soft light, a dining table already set with simple but beautiful place settings. The smell of roasted chicken and sweet potatoes filled the air. Nia gasped. "Is this real?" Brianna knelt beside her. "Yes, sweetheart. It's real." After dinner, as the kids curled up on the couch with hot cocoa, Evelyn led Brianna to a small study in the back of the house. "I need to show you something," she said. She unlocked a drawer and pulled out a stack of manila folders, bound together by a red ribbon. She handed them to Brianna. Brianna flipped through the first few. Legal filings, confidential reports, handwritten notes, all centered around one thing: healthcare fraud. At the top of one document, she saw her mother's name in bold. "What is this?" "Your mother uncovered a ring of doctors and administrators falsifying medical bills, denying treatment to patients, especially low-income families. She tried to expose it." Brianna looked up. "And that's why she got sick?" Evelyn paused, her lips tightening. "That's why she got silenced." Brianna's throat tightened. "I tried to help her, but by the time I realized how deep it went, she was already being blackballed. The hospital let her go. No explanation. Her records were sealed. Even the media wouldn't touch it." "But why keep this from me?" Evelyn sat across from her. "Because you were just a kid, and because she hoped you wouldn't have to carry this." Brianna flipped to the last folder. Inside was a document labeled Moore Foundation Contingency Directive. A trust fund under Brianna's name. "What is this?" "It's your mother's legacy." She built a nonprofit on paper, funded through donors she quietly gathered while she worked as a nurse. She left it dormant, waiting for you. Brianna stared at the page, her fingers trembling. "But I'm not ready for this. I've been cleaning houses, barely surviving. How am I supposed to—" Evelyn leaned forward. "That's exactly why you're the right one, because you've lived it. You know what people need. Your story gives this foundation meaning." Silence hung in the air. Then Brianna whispered, "They shoved me into a garage like I was nothing." "And now," Evelyn said, "you'll decide who gets the keys to the front door." Just then, Evelyn's phone buzzed. She checked it, then frowned. "Something wrong?" Brianna asked. "It's Veronica." Brianna's eyes narrowed. "What does she want?" "She just sent a message. Said you left without a word. Said she's worried, and that her husband, Roger, wants to know why you didn't show up for dinner." Brianna laughed bitterly. "Now she's worried?" "She doesn't know I saw it happen. She thinks she still controls the story." Evelyn handed the phone to Brianna. "You want to respond?" Brianna looked at the screen for a long moment. Then she typed back, "I'll be in touch." Evelyn smiled. "But not yet," Brianna added. That night, as Brianna tucked the kids into their new beds, real beds with soft sheets and thick blankets, she paused in the doorway and watched them fall asleep. Malik stirred. "Mama?" "Yes, baby? You think we'll get to stay here?" Brianna walked over, brushing his curls back from his forehead. "Yes." "We're not going anywhere." But deep down, she knew the storm hadn't passed. Veronica wasn't the only one who tried to bury her mother's story. And now, that story was back in the light. And the people who wanted it hidden, they weren't going to stay silent for long. The next morning, Brianna woke up before the sun. For a brief moment, she forgot where she was. Then the silence hit her. No kids screaming down the hall, no Veronica banging on the walls demanding quiet. Just stillness, peace, and a thick blanket of responsibility. She got dressed in jeans and a hoodie, tied her curls back, and padded downstairs. Evelyn was already in the kitchen, sipping coffee with her glasses perched low on her nose. "You're up early," Evelyn said without looking up. "Couldn't sleep," Brianna admitted, pouring herself a cup. They sat across from each other at the breakfast table. For a long time, neither spoke. Finally, Brianna said, "I want to see where she worked. The hospital." Evelyn looked up, surprised. "Are you sure you're ready?" "No," Brianna said. "But I don't think I have time to wait." 2 hours later, they pulled up to Crestline Medical Center, a sleek, modern hospital nestled in Midtown Atlanta. Brianna hadn't been there since she was 10, visiting her mom during a double shift. The lobby looked the same, cold, spotless, distant. Evelyn waited in the car. Brianna stepped through the revolving door. A young white receptionist at the front desk glanced up. Her name tag read, Lindsay. "Hi," Brianna said, voice steady. "I'm looking for records. My mother, Lorraine Moore, used to work here as a nurse." Lindsay's polite smile froze. "I'm sorry. Employment records aren't available to the public." "I'm not the public," Brianna said. "I'm her daughter." Lindsay shifted in her chair. "Still, we have protocols. You'll have to go through HR. Then direct me there." Lindsay hesitated, then picked up the phone. "Let me call someone." Moments later, a tall man in a sharp suit came out from the back. Salt and pepper hair, Rolex watch, eyes that didn't blink. His ID badge read, David Clarkson, Head of Administration. "Ms. Moore," he said, offering a hand. Brianna shook it, but she felt the stiffness. This man wasn't here to help. He was here to contain. "I understand you're looking for employment files related to Lorraine Moore," he said as they walked. "I am." "Unfortunately, due to privacy policies and the passage of time, we're unable to release anything without legal clearance." Brianna stopped walking. "That's funny," she said, "because I have documentation at home showing her termination was suspicious. I also have bank records, whistleblower notes, and a sealed report naming this hospital." Clarkson's jaw twitched. "I'm not sure where you obtained those, but any accusation made over a decade ago was fully investigated." "And buried," Brianna snapped, "along with my mother." He glanced around the hallway, his tone tightening. "Look, Ms. Moore, I'm going to be candid with you. If you attempt to stir up old ghosts, especially publicly, it won't go well. The people you're poking, they're not just doctors, they're powerful, influential. And they don't like being challenged." Brianna took a step closer. "You threatening me?" Clarkson smiled, cold and professional. "Just giving you perspective." Brianna turned to leave, but stopped at the door. "Tell Dr. Simmons I remember him. He used to sneak candy to me when I waited in the break room." He also signed off on a patient's death that shouldn't have happened. I've got the name now, and if you won't give me what I'm looking for, I'll find someone who will." She walked out before he could respond. Back in the car, Evelyn could tell something had changed. Brianna wasn't angry. She was focused. "They tried to intimidate me," Brianna said, sliding into the seat, "and they're hiding something big." "They always were," Evelyn said, "but now, you've got eyes on you." That night, back at the brownstone, Brianna pulled the files out again. She laid everything on the table, her mom's handwritten notes, the patient names, the timelines. Malik and Nia peeked into the room. "Mom, you coming to bed?" "In a little bit, baby," Brianna said. "Go on, I'll be up soon." When they were gone, Evelyn stepped beside her. "You know this isn't just about justice for Lorraine anymore," she said. "This is about the people they hurt." "The lives they erased." Brianna nodded. "I'm not backing down." At that moment, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She stared at it. Evelyn gave her a sharp look. "Don't answer." But Brianna already had. "Hello?" a deep voice responded. "You're making a mistake, Brianna." Her blood ran cold. "Who is this?" "You don't want to dig into your mother's past?" "It's not safe." Her grip tightened. "Cowards make threats from the shadows." The line went dead. Evelyn watched her carefully. "What did they say?" Brianna looked up, eyes burning. "They said it's not safe. Good." "That means I'm getting close." The storm was coming, and this time she wasn't running from it. She was walking straight into the eye. 3 days passed in a blur of digging, phone calls, and sleepless nights. Brianna barely touched her food, her mind consumed with connecting dots. She was chasing something bigger than retaliation. She was chasing the truth her mother died for. Late one afternoon, as the kids napped and Evelyn prepared dinner, Brianna got a call back from an old contact she had nearly given up on. "Hello?" "Ms. Moore. This is Ray Thomas. I used to be head of janitorial at Crestline back in the day. You left a message about Lorraine." Brianna bolted upright. "Yes, Mr. Thomas, thank you for calling." "Did you know my mother?" He gave a dry chuckle. "Knew her? That woman saved my life." "Twice. I owe her more than I can repay." Brianna's voice cracked. "Can we talk?" "In person?" "Yeah," he said after a beat. "There's a diner off Auburn Avenue. 20 minutes?" Brianna grabbed her coat and was out the door before Evelyn could even ask where she was going. Ray Thomas was waiting at a corner booth, his gray hair tucked under a faded cap, work boots still stained from years of labor. His eyes lit up when he saw her. "You've got your mama's fire," he said, as she slid into the seat. "You said she saved your life," Brianna said, getting straight to it. Ray nodded. "I was caught up in a nasty argument with a surgeon, Dr. Marshall. He accused me of stealing morphine. Lorraine knew I wasn't that kind of man. She vouched for me, testified to the board, risked her job." Brianna leaned in. "What happened to her?" "Why was she fired?" Ray sighed, folding his hands. "She found out a patient had been administered the wrong dosage during a routine operation. The woman died." Lorraine believed it wasn't just an accident. There was a pattern. Overworked interns, forged records, shortcuts to protect senior staff. Brianna swallowed. "She tried to report it?" "She did more than try. She went to a watchdog group, brought them files, logs, even audio, and then one day, just like that, she was gone. Terminated. No explanation." Brianna clenched her fists. "Did she ever say who was behind it?" Ray hesitated. "There was one name she never said out loud, but she left a note once, said, 'If anything happens, look to the foundation.'" "What foundation?" Trident Health Foundation. They fund Crestline, scholarships, research, all of it. Brianna scribbled it down. Ray, would you be willing to testify? If this goes public? I'm old, Brianna. I don't got much left to lose, yeah. I'll speak. They shook hands, but as Brianna stepped outside into the cool Atlanta dusk, a black SUV pulled slowly into the lot. No plates. No driver she could see. She froze. The window rolled down just enough to flash a phone camera. Then the SUV sped off. Brianna raced back to Evelyn's. Her chest pounded as she slammed the door behind her. They're watching me now, she said. Evelyn looked up from the kitchen. You sure? Positive. And they know I'm closing in. That night she sat at the dining table again, her kids upstairs, safe for now. She typed Trident Health Foundation into her laptop. On the surface, they looked like philanthropists, funding local clinics, donating millions to hospitals. But one name kept surfacing again and again, Dr. Caleb Simmons. The man her mother once trusted. She clicked deeper. Years ago, he sat on the board of Crestline. Today, he was the chairman of Trident's executive committee. Brianna stared at his photo. Silver hair, kind smile, polished suit. The same man who used to bring her candy while her mom worked late. He was the one. She scrolled further and froze. An announcement. Dr. Simmons would be speaking in person at a fundraiser in Buckhead the following night. Limited access, black tie. Evelyn appeared behind her. You're thinking about going, aren't you? Brianna turned. I'm not thinking, she said. I'm going. Brianna, that's dangerous. He'll have people watching. Then let them watch. She stood and exhaled. I'm done hiding. I want him to see me. I want him to know Lorraine Moore's daughter didn't forget. Evelyn nodded slowly, eyes full of both worry and pride. Then we'll get you a dress. The next evening, Brianna slipped into a navy blue gown borrowed from one of Evelyn's church friends. Her hair was in curls, lips glossed, and confidence cloaked her like armor. Evelyn drove her, but stayed in the car. Inside the ballroom, everything glowed. Champagne flowed, diamonds sparkled. People laughed too loudly, and then she saw him. Doctor! Caleb Simmons, surrounded by donors and flattery. He hadn't aged a day since the last time she saw him. As she approached, someone stepped in her path. A security guard in a black suit. Can I help you, ma'am? Brianna smiled. Yes. I believe you can. She flashed a fake donor badge Evelyn printed off a template. The guard hesitated, then let her pass. She walked straight toward Caleb Simmons. Their eyes locked. For a second, confusion flickered, then recognition. Lorraine, he whispered. Brianna smiled coldly. Close. I'm the daughter of the woman you destroyed. The crowd hushed. Glasses froze midair. Simmons went pale. Excuse me, he stammered. Brianna leaned in. You remember the patient who died? The forged reports? The nurse who wouldn't play along? Simmons backed up. I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, but you will, she said, sliding a flash drive onto the tray beside him. This is just the beginning. She turned and walked out. Behind her, silence cracked like thunder. Outside, Evelyn was already revving the engine. You did it? She asked as Brianna jumped in. Oh, I started it, Brianna said. Now let's see what happens when the truth goes public. The morning after the gala, Brianna awoke to her phone buzzing nonstop. News headlines lit up her notifications like wildfire. Anonymous whistleblower confronts Trident Foundation chair at fundraiser. Dr. Caleb Simmons accused of cover-up at Crestline Memorial. New evidence suggests medical malpractice buried for over a decade. Brianna rubbed her eyes, blinking at the screen as a wave of adrenaline surged through her. "I think we started something," she whispered to herself. Downstairs, Evelyn was already pouring coffee, her laptop open to a local news live stream. "They've been replaying your footage all morning," she said, nodding toward the screen. The shaky video taken by a nearby guest at the gala showed Brianna's confrontation with Simmons. Her voice was calm, her words deliberate. She looked like a woman in full control, because she was. "They still don't know who I am," Brianna said, sliding into the seat next to her. "That won't last long." Evelyn leaned in, lowering her voice. "You need to be ready, baby. If Simmons goes down, he's not going quietly." And she was right. By noon, reporters were camped outside Evelyn's garage. Neighbors peeked through blinds. The quiet suburban street had become a media circus. Brianna stood tall, ignored the cameras, and walked to her car with her head high. But what she didn't expect was the unmarked black sedan parked down the block. Inside it sat a man in a dark coat, sunglasses on despite the overcast sky. He spoke softly into a phone. "She's moving. We keep eyes on her. No contact." Brianna had no idea yet, but the Foundation was watching. Later that afternoon, she met Ray Thomas at the city records office. The old man handed her a manila envelope, worn at the edges. "Your mom gave me this years ago. Said not to open it unless she disappeared or something happened." Inside were pages of handwritten notes, copies of medical reports, and a journal entry that hit Brianna like a punch to the gut. Feb 11. Found proof, doctor. Simmons ordered junior staff to falsify intake notes. Patient, Marie Salter, died after being given 2 overlapping medications. I filed a report. No response. "They're ignoring me on purpose. If anything happens to me, I want Brianna to know I fought for her future." Tears welled in Brianna's eyes. Ray put a hand on her shoulder. "She wasn't scared, Brianna. She just didn't want you growing up in a world that swept this under the rug." As they stepped out of the records office, Brianna's phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello?" A deep voice, unfamiliar and measured, spoke. "Ms. Moore, I suggest you stop digging, for the sake of your children." The call ended. Brianna's blood ran cold. Ray looked over. "What happened?" "They just threatened my kids." That night, Evelyn insisted the children stay with her niece in Alpharetta for a few days. Brianna didn't argue. She kissed her kids tightly and promised them she'd see them soon. Afterward, she paced the living room like a lioness in a cage. "They're panicking," Evelyn said. Brianna nodded. "And that means we're close." She sent the journal scans to an investigative journalist she trusted, Lisa Randolph from Channel 12. They had worked together years ago when Brianna handled legal aid for exploited tenants. Lisa replied within the hour. "This is huge, but we need something more concrete if I'm going to air it." So Brianna did what no one expected. She filed a formal whistleblower report with the state medical board using her real name, attaching Lorraine Moore's documentation and requesting a public review hearing. 2 hours later, a subpoena hit Simmons' office. And 2 hours after that, Brianna's email was hacked. She noticed when files began disappearing. Journal entries vanished, scans glitched, login attempts flooded her inbox. Panicked, she called Lisa. "Get off Wi-Fi," Lisa said immediately. "I'll send someone to pull your drives." Brianna unplugged everything. For a moment, she stared at her dark laptop screen and wondered what her mom would say if she were still alive. Then she picked up a pen, grabbed a legal pad, and kept writing. By midnight, Lisa had dispatched a tech guy, Ravi, who cloned everything and set up encryption. But before leaving, he pulled her aside. "Not to scare you," he said, but someone tried to ping your location using law enforcement level tools. This isn't just corporate. Brianna blinked. You mean they're using police software? He nodded. Or someone inside the system is helping them. That twist sent a chill down her spine. By morning, a bombshell report aired on Channel 12. Trident whistleblower comes forward. Decades of alleged cover-ups revealed. They blurred her face, but the voiceover was hers. Caleb Simmons denied everything. In a smug press conference, he claimed the accusations were a deep fake, calling Brianna an unstable conspiracy theorist with an agenda. But the public wasn't buying it. Online, support poured in. Former patients, ex-employees, even interns from the Crestline years began posting anonymously. Stories matched. Names overlapped. Someone was finally listening. And Brianna. She was just getting started. She stared at her mother's journal one last time and whispered, "I'm not afraid of you, Caleb. Not anymore." Then she picked up the phone and dialed Lisa again. "I want to go on camera," she said. "Are you sure? I need them to know my name." The sun hadn't even cleared the horizon when Brianna stood in the Channel 12 studio, dressed in a simple navy blazer. Her hair was tied back, her voice rehearsed but steady. Lisa stood across from her, calm but visibly tense. "You still have a window to back out," Lisa said gently. Brianna shook her head. "If I disappear tomorrow, I want my face on tape saying exactly what they did." The camera light flicked on. The red light meant they were live. Brianna breathed deep, then began. "My name is Brianna Moore. 20 years ago, my mother died under suspicious circumstances at Crestline Memorial Hospital. I've since uncovered documents proving a systemic cover-up led by Dr. Caleb Simmons and other executives at the Trident Foundation." As her voice rang out across the state, Evelyn watched from her couch, eyes welling with pride. So did Ray, clutching a mug of coffee in disbelief. Social media erupted. Within minutes, "Your Justice for Lorraine" began trending on X. And in the shadows of a downtown high-rise, Caleb Simmons threw his tablet against the wall. She went public. "That damn garage rat just declared war." His assistant hesitated. "Sir, it's everywhere now. You can't control the story anymore." Caleb's face turned crimson. "We'll see about that." Meanwhile, Brianna walked out of the studio to find a man in a tailored suit waiting near the exit. "Ms. Moore." "I'm with the governor's office." She blinked. "Excuse me?" He handed her a card. "We'd like you to testify before the State Oversight Committee." "In private for now, but your voice carries weight. They're opening an inquiry." Before she could respond, her phone buzzed again. Another call from a blocked number. She ignored it. As she stepped outside, the winter air hit her. For the first time in weeks, she didn't feel afraid. Not exactly safe, but powerful. A woman seen. But across the city, things were moving. Inside Simmons's office, his lawyer warned him. "If more former staff start flipping, we'll have to prepare for depositions." And that email from '08. If it surfaces, it's a felony. Caleb sneered. "She wants a war. Fine." That night, Brianna returned to Evelyn's, her body exhausted, but her mind racing. She opened her laptop, only to find a notification. "Admin login attempt. Access granted." She froze. Files began vanishing again, this time faster. She yanked the power cable, heart pounding. Evelyn ran in. "What's going on?" "They're in. They got into the drive Ravi encrypted." She called Lisa, breathless. "They hacked through encryption. This isn't just a rogue IT guy. This is someone deep inside a system." Lisa's voice dropped. "You're not safe anymore, Bree." Later that night, she packed a bag for the kids and drove to Alpharetta. But when she arrived, her niece opened the door with a pale face. Two men in suits came by this morning. Said they were with Child Services. Asked questions about your mental state. Brianna's breath caught. What did you tell them? The truth. That you're brilliant and strong and completely sane, but they had files, Bree, like real reports. Brianna's knees buckled. They're trying to frame me as unstable, she whispered. Her niece grabbed her hand. You need a lawyer. Not a friend, not a journalist, a pit bull. By morning, Brianna had done just that. She sat across from Camille Jefferson, a firecracker civil rights attorney known for taking on police unions and winning. They're moving fast. If they're trying to discredit you, it means your evidence is solid. I'm going to file a protective injunction. From this moment, no state or corporate actor can touch you or your children without court review. Camille leaned forward. And then, we sue. Meanwhile, inside the Trident Foundation, panic began to set in. Two former interns contacted Lisa with emails, audio recordings, and signed NDA copies that pointed to falsified records, payoffs, and patient manipulation. The story ballooned. Channel 12 ran a segment titled, The Garage Woman Who Took Down a Giant. It was raw, powerful, and Brianna's name was now a household one. But just as the momentum picked up, something strange happened. A man named Edward Kingsley, a former member of the Trident Foundation board, called Lisa asking for a meeting with Brianna. They met in a coffee shop tucked in a quiet part of town. He wore a worn coat, looked over his shoulder twice before sitting down. I shouldn't be here, he said, but I knew Lorraine, and I know what Caleb did to her. He slid over a flash drive. Everything you need is on here, emails, signatures, recordings, even the memo Caleb wrote about silencing your mother. Brianna's eyes welled up. Why are you giving this to me? Because I stayed silent too long. And because I lost a daughter in that same hospital, 5 years after your mother. As he stood up, he looked her in the eyes. Burn it all down. Back at Evelyn's garage, Brianna plugged the flash drive into an offline laptop. What she saw turned her stomach. Internal documents listing dozens of deaths labeled avoidable, a pay structure that rewarded early patient discharges, notes from executives about suppressing complaints, and in one email from Caleb Simmons, a sentence that sealed everything. If she keeps talking, we'll bury her the same way we buried her complaints. Brianna leaned back, fists clenched. The story wasn't just personal anymore, it was generational, systemic. She picked up the phone. Lisa, I've got your smoking gun. The courtroom was so quiet you could hear the ticking of the judge's watch. Every bench was packed. Reporters, activists, former patients, and employees. At the center, Brianna Moore sat calm but unyielding, flanked by her attorney Camille Jefferson and her aunt Evelyn just behind her. The prosecutor held up the flash drive. Your Honor, this is the evidence submitted by Ms. Moore and verified by 3 independent digital forensic experts. It contains email correspondence, video meetings, financial statements, and internal memos, all confirming that Dr. Caleb Simmons and executives at the Trident Foundation knowingly suppressed complaints, altered patient records, and targeted whistleblowers. Gasps echoed across the gallery. The judge, a no-nonsense black woman named Judge Marissa Lott, looked over her glasses. Is it true that several of the listed deaths were later ruled natural without autopsy, despite internal notes suggesting negligence? Yes, Your Honor, Camille said firmly. Including the death of Ms. Moore's mother, Lorraine Matthews. Judge Lott turned to the defense. And what is your response? Caleb Simmons sat hunched in his tailored suit, sweat forming at his temples. His high-powered lawyer shuffled papers desperately. Your Honor, we contest the context of these documents. They lack proper chain of custody. The judge raised a brow. Is that your best response to a mass cover-up involving over 30 patients? He stammered. We weren't aware of all activities at the executive level. Cut the performance, Camille said, rising from her seat. This man was the architect. The documents contain his personal signature on at least 9 memos, ordering the deletion of records. He silenced staff. He falsified reports. He buried lives. And when Brianna Moore, a grieving daughter, began asking questions, he tried to bury her too. The room held its breath. Brianna stood slowly. They said I was crazy, a single mom living in a garage looking for a ghost. But I never gave up. Because justice doesn't belong to the rich or the powerful. It belongs to those who refuse to be silenced. Judge Lott leaned forward. Dr. Simmons, I'm referring your case to the State Attorney General's office for criminal prosecution. Until then, you are remanded without bail. The room erupted. People wept, clapped, even shouted in disbelief. Caleb Simmons was handcuffed in front of the cameras. For the first time in 2 decades, Evelyn exhaled fully, her hand gripping Brianna's tightly. Outside, the press swarmed. Brianna, how does it feel? She looked into the cameras. This wasn't just about my mother. This was about every person who's ever been told they don't matter. To anyone out there fighting a system too big to see you, keep going. They count on you giving up, so don't. Later that week, Channel 12 aired a follow-up segment titled, From Garage to Justice, The Brianna Moore Story. Donations poured in for a new foundation she created in her mother's name, the Lorraine Matthews Initiative, for hospital transparency and patient advocacy. Ray stopped by with groceries. Ravi called to say he got a full-time job at a cybersecurity firm thanks to his role in the case. And Lisa, she got nominated for a regional journalism award. But perhaps the most unexpected twist came from a letter slid under their front door. It was from the CEO of a luxury real estate firm. Ms. Moore, it would be our honor to offer you a new home, mortgage-free, in recognition of your extraordinary courage. Your story reminded us that integrity must always come before profit. Inside that envelope were the keys to a townhome in Midtown Atlanta. Brianna cried for the first time in months, not out of pain, but release. That night, a black limousine pulled up quietly outside Evelyn's garage one last time. Not to intimidate, not to threaten, but to move a family forward. As the kids climbed in, holding hands, Evelyn stood at the door watching. Brianna turned back one last time. You sure you're not coming? Evelyn smiled. I got some kids in the neighborhood still need their groceries packed. You go start that new life, baby. You earned every second of it. And as the limo pulled away, past the house that once kicked them out, past the corner where no one had cared, Brianna Moore rode in silence, proud, vindicated, and free. But the system wasn't fully fixed. Not yet. The fight continued for others, and Brianna was ready. So if you're watching this now, remember, justice isn't given, it's demanded. Support stories like this. Stand with the unheard, subscribe to our channel, share these voices, and help us keep telling the truths that matter. Because sometimes, the most powerful change begins in a garage.